Hello and welcome back to What If Deku Got the Ultramatrix. Today I would just be doing a small supplement video on basically like telling you about all the aliens he has and what he can do with them, along with a little bit later in the video explaining what specific training and what he'll learn from his 1 month training before the UA entrance exams. First off, let's start with Big Chill, his main alien in this timeline. He has ice breath that can freeze things. He can go intangible, and when he flies through things, they kind of become encased in ice. He can also withstand extreme temperatures, whether they be extreme heat or extreme colds. Their species normally fly throughout space, so they're exposed to like being near suns and also being just in the vacuum of space, so don't really need to breathe either. They can also eat metal, whether it be solid or molten, so they have a pretty strong bite. And they can sort of control where their ice goes if they create it. So let's say if Todoroki were to send an ice blast against Big Chill, he couldn't necessarily control that ice, but any ice that he himself makes, he could control that. Now Brainstorm is super intelligent. He has electrokinesis, that means he can kind of control electricity. He has like a durable carapace. He's extremely agile despite his shape. He can scale walls to an extent. He can also levitate by using his electrokinesis. And this is a rather strange one. I didn't quite know he could do. Apparently he can alter memories by messing with the electricity in your brain. And you can also kind of use telekinesis. Next is Chroma Stone. He can absorb energy and redirect the energy in like energy blasts. He can also reflect energy. He has enhanced durability due to being made out of stone and crystal. He also has like enhanced strength. He can produce energy shield. He can jump pretty high. He also does not need the oxygen, being made out of stone. Also, Ben didn't quite know this, so I'm not gonna have Deku know this until a little bit later on, but Chroma Stone can fly. Echo can duplicate himself, detect vibrations, and have like sonic screams. He can also transmit sound waves. What I mean by that is that if something is touching him and making a sound, he can replicate that frequency and basically be a megaphone. He is also extremely agile, and he can jump pretty high despite his small stature. Humongousaur is super strong, super durable, and can increase and decrease his size to a certain extent. I believe the largest he's ever been is like 3 stories tall, and the smallest he's ever been is like the size of your standard suburban house. He can also hold his breath for a pretty long time, and he has a pretty powerful roar. I'm guessing that's given to his increased lung size. Jet Ray is super fast and can fly, can fire lasers from both his eyes and his tail, and they do not need oxygen, as evidenced by he can fly in space, and he can also go underwater for quite a long time. And they also have enhanced strength like most of his other aliens. Lodestar is basically a giant magnet. He can control magnetism, making other things magnetic, or just by ripping apart metal by using his claw hand things to sort of pull them apart. He can also regenerate to a certain extent if destroyed. He can fly by using his magnetism, but while he's flying, he can't really affect anything else with his magnetism. He has enhanced strength and durability. Next is Nanomech. He can reduce his size to microscopic levels. He can fly. He's very adaptable, as evidenced by he could have survived in outer space, and he adapted to that environment. When he was in a pretty hot environment, he adapted to be heat resistant. He's basically what we would view the singularity, where he just keeps making himself better. However, each time they use Omnitrix, he kind of gets reset back, and he doesn't retain those upgrades he makes to himself. It's also very understandable of technology, particular circuit boards. Next up is Wrath. He's super strong, has a very strong bite and large retractable claws coming out of the back of his hand. He's extremely durable. He's super smart, but that's kind of tempered due to his super aggressiveness and just wanting to punch punch things and tear things apart all the time. Spider Monkey is extremely agile, can shoot sticky webs from his tail, has enhanced strength, super hearing, and can climb on walls. And also, being a spider monkey, it has 4 arms, 2 legs. Swampfire can shoot fireballs and fire torrents out of his palms. The fireballs kind of explode in a generally small radius. The fire torrents are kind of like gouts of fire. He can control plants, has super regeneration. I believe the only way he can't be regenerated is if you destroy most of him. He's super smelly, so he's not really good at any stealth missions. He has enhanced strength. He has very limited shapeshifting, and by that I mean he can like squeeze himself into tiny cracks and come out the other side. He can create mud if he wants to. He can make knockout gas, and he has limited flight by basically being Iron Man. Next up is one that I kind of forgot existed. It's a jerry-rig. It basically looks like a tiny goblin. It has a great understanding of technology, is enhanced speed when interacting with technology, like when tearing it apart or putting it back together, and it can pretty much build anything and modify tech to whatever it wants, as long as it has said materials to do so. Blitzwolf is Ben 10's kind of a werewolf alien transformation, is enhanced strength, super speed, agility, and reflexes, also jumping and stamina, has super smelling and hearing, and he has sonic howls, and you can kind of like sonically propulsion himself off the ground. He has very sharp claws and sharp teeth, and his mouth opens like a predator's. Cannonbolt can bounce off of walls, is resistant to acid and lava, and his outer shell can deflect lasers even though his inner part is still vulnerable to those. Is enhanced strength, agility, and enhanced balance. You wouldn't really think about it like looking at him, but he kind of can. Diamond Head, he can create crystals rising out of the ground. He can control said crystals. He's super strong, super durable, and can reflect light, and has limited shapeshifting, and by that I mean he can create spikes out of his own bodies, make his hand to be spikes, or have blades come out of his hands, that sort of thing. Ditto is one of his weaker transformations, as it doesn't really have any powers beyond like self-duplication. That's its main thing. It also has like enhanced flexibility, enhanced agility, enhanced jumping. It can breathe underwater. It can dig really good for some reason, and this is the main thing separating this one from Echo Echo. Whatever the clone knows, he knows it once he assimilates them and like goes back to being Ben. However, if the clones are harmed, he is also harmed. Now here's an interesting one here. Ghost Freak, as we all know in like the original, it kind of took over Ben's body for a while. I'm not gonna have that here, mainly because I do not know where it could appear in the story and not just throw everything out of whack to where the main timeline doesn't even matter at that point. However, the Ghost Freak's powers are this. I'm still gonna have him have the alien transformation. He can levitate, phase through solid matter. He's intangible if he wants to be. He can go invisible if he wants to. He can possess people's bodies. He can create tentacles out of himself by opening up his sheet per se. His eye can move around his entire body. He doesn't need to breathe. He has enhanced strength, telekinesis. He can alter his shape limitedly. He has sharp claws, and he's immune to energy absorption. And technically, he's not alive, so like any quirk that could track living things can't quite track Ghost Freak. Gray Matter has super enhanced intelligence. Not quite to that extent as Brainstorm, but it makes up for it in its super agility, flexibility, jumping, and technological expertise. And for some reason, Gray Matter can also breathe underwater. Heat Blast has pyrokinesis, Fire Breath, Fire Absorption. He can tear pieces out of the ground and kind of surf on them. He has enhanced strength, durability, is immune to fire and ice, and his fire is hot enough to melt a tank. However, that's if he really focuses and put a lot of power into his fire, which I don't think Deku would, since he doesn't want to kill anybody. Now here's an odd thing about Heat Blast. If Deku were to transform into him while he has a cold or a flu or something along those lines, it would actually reverse his powers, so he would have cryokinesis instead. So Ripjaw, he has a glowing lure hanging from his head that he can turn off and on whenever he wants. He has enhanced strength, durability, and he is super fast and agile when underwater. He has a bite strong enough to tear through steel, sharp claws, and he can kind of unhinge his jaw and expand his mouth like a snake. Snarrow Zero, which is basically the mummy transformation, has limited shape-shifting. It can remove his face if he wants to. His stretchable limbs, he's very elastic. He can unravel his entire body. He can regenerate limbs and reattach them. He can also, like over time, his bandages kind of come back. So unless you destroy all of the bandages, you haven't really killed Ben or Deku in this case. He has enhanced strength, durability, agility, reflexes, and being made out of bandage and being able to control him any way he wants. He can also kind of manipulate himself in that way, giving him enhanced flexibility. He can also enhance his jumping by basically being a spring. He also is faster in this form, and since being a mummy and technically being undead, he doesn't need to breathe. Stinkfly can fly. He can shoot slime out of his eyeballs. He can create poison gas, and the slime he shoots out of his eyeballs, he can make it acidic or not. He has a very sharp tail. He has 360 vision due to his 4 eyes kind of being on antennas. He has an enhanced strength, durability, and agility, along with enhanced speed. Upchuck can ingest solid matter and energy, and anything he throws up, he can choose to have it explode, or make it acidic, or just make it a slimy substance. His tongue is prehensile and can stretch. He has very strong teeth, as evidence of him basically eating the remnants of a black hole, as seen in his crossover movie with Generator Rex. Despite him looking kind of pudgy, and you wouldn't really think about this, he's actually pretty fast and agile. He has enhanced durability, and that's pretty much it for Upchuck. You've seen Deku use Upgrade in the entrance exams, but this is exactly what it does. He can enhance technology, and he can replicate technology that he's previously possessed. So that means if he upgrades a car, he can then turn into a car later on without the upgrades that he added onto it. He doesn't need to breathe, being sort of a mechanical race. He can shoot an energy beam out of his eye. He also has enhanced strength, and he can be squashed and reform himself. However, if any part of him is destroyed, it kind of takes him a little bit to regain whatever was destroyed. He also has pretty good shapeshifting, as evidenced by him being able to turn into anything that he's previously possessed. Wildvine kind of looks like a Venus flytrap, but if it was a person. This one can generate vines, manipulate plant life, and kind of control it. They have seeds on its backs that kind of like act as bombs. They have like skewering vines, so you can make them really sharp and just shove them into people if you so chooses to. This alien transformation is also very good at tunneling underground, is enhanced strength and regeneration. Like if his arm gets cut off, he can just regrow it. And he has gas immunity, so that means plant killer ain't gonna work on this one. So now I'm going to go on to his ultimate forms. Bear in mind that at the moment he only knows that Big Chill can go ultimate. I'm not giving every alien transformation an ultimate one, and I'll just take the ones from the show and say that those are the only ones that survive the hostile environment that the Ultramatrix kind of puts the DNA in and has it evolve. So the following list are the only ones that have ultimate transformations. So Big Chill can create fire so cold it burns. So that means basically he shoots out a torrent of fire and ice sort of forms in the air where the fire once was. He can breathe fire and also shoot it from his hands. He can suck the heat out of the air. He is much faster and can survive in worse climates. So that means, as before, he could only get so close to a sun. Here he can get even closer and he can survive even colder temperatures. Ultimate Echo has enhanced durability. He can fly. He doesn't need to breathe. He has enhanced strength. However, he does lose the ability to duplicate himself, but he does gain the ability to create flying sonic discs that can duplicate themselves. Ultimate Humongosaur is way stronger, way more durable. He has Gatling missile hands. You can kind of retract his fingers and shoot missiles out of where his fingers once were. They don't seem to really do much damage, but they can destroy a car. However, they did in one of the episodes destroy a spaceship, so I'm pretty sure he can control the lethality of the missiles. He also has a very mace-like tail, and he can grow even larger. Ultimate Spider Monkey is way stronger, has way stronger webs, extreme durability, more agile, and his spider legs are sharper. I think in one of the episodes it pierced the metal like of steel. Ultimate Swamp Fire is more resistant to basically everything. It can fire scatter bombs that sort of explode into smaller bombs and rain down on their opponents. His fire is actually more like napalm now, and his flames that he still can shoot are way hotter. He is faster despite how he looks. However, he does lose his ability to regenerate. Ultimate Wild Mutt can actually speak now. He's stronger. He has increased sense of smell, enhanced hearing, sharper tail, sharper claws, and sharper teeth. So overall, he has 27 aliens to choose from. If you count ultimates, then he has 34. Now I will get on to what he was doing specifically in his 1 month training period with All Might and Mirio cleaning up the beach. Big Chill was mainly just freezing things, going faster, kind of learning from Mirio how to deal with his intangibility and how to best use it. I'd say the specifics of their training is that Deku would learn to not just spam intangibility, so he would learn that, hey, if I go intangible, of course, I can't be hit, but I also hit people. So he'd kind of learn that. And while he was training with Mirio, he would like nervously fidget with the symbol on his chest, accidentally unlocking Ultimate Big Chill, which I'm gonna say in this timeline reduces the amount of time he can be in alien form, but it does make it stronger since it took Ben a while to be able to stay in his alien forms for as long as he did in Ultimate Alien. Next would be his training with Ripjaw. I think while he was training with Big Chill, it would kind of occur to him that while Big Chill may be a pretty powerful alien, he's not exactly the best when it comes to underwater combat, and then he'll just kind of cycle through his watch until he finds Ripjaw, and so that would sort of lead him to say, hey, All Might, can you like throw that fridge in the water for me? And he would kind of go in the water, All Might would throw it, and then he'd kind of practice tearing that fridge apart with Ripjaw. He wouldn't get very much training with Ripjaw since none of the heroes there currently helping him train, which is just Mirio and All Might, really excel underwater, so he might get more training with that if he decides to hit up Froppy when he's actually in the UA Academy for some underwater training. Next up is Accelerate. I think this entire time he would just be training specifically with All Might and Mirio with this one. He'd be training with Mirio to sort of learn when to correctly time his blows, and he'd be training with All Might to just make Accelerate faster. Other than that, there's not really much you can do with Accelerate. However, I would say he does learn the Vortex thing, where Accelerate spins around a target very fast and kind of creates a tornado above them. Next up is Wild Mutt. I think this would be one of the times where his Omnitrix kind of glitches out, and instead of putting him in the Big Chill, he'd turn him into Wild Mutt. He'd be panicking on the inside while Mirio and All Might are sort of questioning him why he's in this dog-like form when they were going to train with Big Chill today. And so while he's in that form, he can't quite talk and explain the situation, so he would decide just to make the best out of a bad situation and just start tearing apart like metal trash and basically like writing in the sand to All Might and Mirio that he'd like to train in this form for a little bit. During this time, I think Deku would learn of Wild Mutt's kind of echolocation and him being able to map out in his mind where everything is, using that sort of power of Wild Mutt's, so he'd sort of learn how to predict his enemy's movements coming towards him. And that would be pretty much all he'd learn from Wild Mutt, other than how to be an absolute beast and just tear things to shreds. Like a dog mad that his master went out and didn't bring him along to his work, specifically their shoes. Swamp Fire is one of the ones that I think he'd just be sort of messing around with his watch, and he'd accidentally go on. So what he'd learn with this one is Swamp Fire has enhanced regeneration. He can shoot fire. I don't think he'd quite learn about his controlling of plants, since there's not really very many plants on the beach. However, I think he'd learn about his limited shape-shifting. I don't think he'd learn how to create mud, nor do I think he'd learn that he could fly, since it just would never really occur to him that he could. I think with this specific alien, he wouldn't really get All Might's approval to train by like melting trash and that sort of thing, since it would just pollute the atmosphere. Not only that, but if anyone were to get caught in the crossfire of the fire, it would be very bad for them. And at this point, Deku doesn't really know how to control the full power of swamp fire, so his fires are really hot. And I don't think they'd be as hot as heat blasts, but they'd be definitely hot enough to melt someone's skin. I think that's all for today, and I hope you liked this video. If you like something about the video, be sure to like, leave it in the comments. If you didn't like this video, be sure to dislike the video and leave what you didn't like in the comments. Even if you're a little bit of a mix of both sides, be sure to just do whatever you think is right. And I'll see y'all later.